Okay. I saw that out of corner of my eye that someone posted stuff from last week. I'll catch up with that here in just a second. All right, this is Carmen. Just make sure here. All right, Carmen. Okay, so what you're looking at here is a series of vignettes. Carmen, are you online?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, so what you're looking at is a series of vignettes. In the world of animation, and I'm going to try to draw this so that you might understand it, is that you're going to be doing storyboards, and you're going to want to show the action of whatever she's doing. You know, you say that she's a baby right here, but I don't think that you want to spend too much time for her being a baby, right? And so what you've got is maybe 3 or 4 story panels. And I would recommend you just kind of thumbing it out. You know, she's crawling, right? The baby's just crawling. And then get used to this being a cross dissolve. And so this cross dissolve means that the next vignette is going to start right underneath it. And so I'm drawing the storyboard thumbnails almost like they were real film. And so let's say that she's a little older of a baby, you know, now she's a toddler right here. And the next vignette is going to cross dissolve. And remember why I'm putting DX right here? Do you remember?
Yeah, kind of.
DX, it's cross dissolve.
Dissolve, yeah.
It's backwards. But in the film and animation world, we always just say DX. All right, so this is what you're doing. You're just creating a bunch of vignettes. And here you would just say, you know, baby, toddler, first grade, second grade, third grade. And there may not be a lot of animation in there. It might be just that she's maybe doing one action left or right or something until you get to this point where she's actually applying for college, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, and so it's going to be hard for you to explain the fact of her being a legacy.
Yeah.
But that's okay. I mean, it's in the story here. There's lots of other things here that are in the story. And let me get out of this here for a second. All right, so this is just self-contained here. All right, so she's waitlisted, horrified. All right, so you say that she turns to her friend who's sitting in the same room, but you drew her what looks like her parents.
Yeah, I didn't draw all of the characters. I was just trying to get
Just
like her family
okay.
Drawn out.
All right, so I'm just a little confused. So her friend got accepted?
Yeah, I have the idea. It's kind of hard to explain. But I just wanted to like make a little parody kind of animation. So she's been doing all of this work trying to get into college.
Yep.
And her friend who's been slacking is the one that gets in.
Okay.
And she gets waitlisted.
All right, so this is going to be just a little tricky because technically in order to really show this visually, you would want the cross dissolves for Jane, right? Sorry, sometimes Zoom doesn't like to draw. And then, but then you would also want, you know, whatever her name is, Polly,
Yeah.
right? Her name is Polly. And so you would want to show Jane's transition and then Polly's transition so that they both come together in the same room. And so that each one of these has like the letter going into the mailbox, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can see that each one of them is going to run out to the mailbox and open up the mailbox and then run back in, and they're both going to sit down, and then making sure that Jane and Polly look a little different, because you really want to show Polly slacking off. You want to show her listening to records, right? And just, going on dates and eating ice cream with the boys and driving around with cars, right? Because I think that's the only real way to tell this. And
Yeah.
so in the world of cinema, you can do this a number of different ways. The first way is to, introduce one and then introduce the other. That might be a little rough. It might be easier to introduce all of this and then introduce Polly,
Mm-hmm.
and then show them both mailing letters at the same time. So in the story panels here, let me do it over here. So here you show Jane mailing hers for a couple of story panels, and then you show Polly mailing hers in much the same way, like the same cameras, the house is a little different, the mailbox is a little different. And then, so these are in sequence. And then you could have like a passage of time for both of them, and then bring it back together where they're both sitting in the room, and the end is that Jane gets waitlisted, but Polly is like, she gets in. What are you thinking? Are we on the same page here?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
Thank you.
No, you're welcome. Looks like people might be popping in and out. Let me check the classroom just for a second. Emma. Yep, okay. All right, so let me think about this for just another second. Well, I think that when you're doing thumbnails, draw the thumbnails just like I did right there.
Okay.
And draw them small, and just, you don't even have to put like images in them. Or you just put little lines, just to get the idea of what the structure of your camera shots are going to look like. And then and this is one of the hardest things to do in a storyboard class, but imagine that the story is already finished, it's already animated, it's already done while you're doing your thumbnails. If you can do that, it might speed up the process just a little bit. One just thing here is that this is really live action intensive. There's not a lot of reason why this has to be animated, except that you're getting your characters to grow old very quickly. In live action, you'd have to cast a bunch of characters that looked like each other as they were growing up.
Mm-hmm.
So keep that in mind. The trick here is going to be getting the two girls' story intertwining into the end. And then you can leave it that, just as you have it, that one gets her acceptance letter and then the other gets waitlisted. Because I think that the final shot is going to be the transition. Jane is going to be really happy, right? I'm sorry, she's going to be really mortified, like you said. Did you use the word mortified?
Yeah, I think I said horrified.
And then, but Polly is going to be like, oh, wow, I got in. Cool. What do you think? And then all of a sudden she's going to realize that, now her best friend she's got to wait. And so that transition of expression is going to help tell the story. Okay.
Yep, sounds
Got
good.
it? So yeah, your first pass at thumbnails, you should just be doing those right now. Like
Okay.
as we're speaking, just go for it. Do it right now.
Okay.
All right, Vivian. Okay, so Vivian, a couple of thoughts here. I think this is good. I think it's fine. This is great. Oh yeah, your character designs are working. Little Dutch angle right there. Okay, yeah, this is great. So one thing that you do is you introduce the 4 men with leprosy, and you have them entering in the city, and then taking the gold and silver, and then they return and they told the people at the palace, but the people at the palace either didn't believe them or said it was a trap. And then right here between 14 and 15, is one of the officers says that he'll investigate, and men in chariots found the road strewn with clothing and equipment. And then they go back and tell the king. So I think that in the second sentence of 15, I think you have to point out that they have to return to the palace to tell the king.
Okay.
Because it's in the sequence, what has to happen is that who are the people that went out and plundered the camp of the Armenians? You have to make that a logical story point, because is it that they went back and they told the king and then the king ordered all his people to go plunder the camp? Or is it just a bunch of random people? You have to make this connection between 15b and 16. Who are the people that are plundering the camp? In your mind, in your story, in your vision, who are the people that are plundering the camp? I'm asking you.
Oh, it's the people inside the city.
Okay. So when you do that, then the people trample the king on the way out and the king dies, right?
Yes.
Okay, so and that was the end of the famine. Okay, so that makes sense. What I would suggest is that you just make that transition clear between, because you don't have it written that the officers tell the king and then the king tells the people.
Okay.
Because or that they overhear, or they accidentally overhear, or something like that, and then they go, oh my god, the stories were true, let's go plunder the camp, and they either intentionally or accidentally follow through with the prophecy of killing the king. What you should end on is the 4 lepers. just because you started with them. And so you should end with them being taken care of or something, because they're your heroes. They're your protagonists in the story. So you start with them, and so give yourself a way to end with them, either being taken care of medically as much as they can, or they've found a safe place for them to live.
Okay.
Okay, so that's what I would suggest. And this is great. He dies in the end. We all know that. All right, great. So off to do thumbnails. And like I just said, do your thumbnails right now. Just as
Okay.
we're going through the critiques here. Alex.
I did a lot of agonizing over this, how to tell the story I wanted to tell. So this,
Okay. All right, so when Rosa is at this birthday party, in your very first sentence, how
Yes.
old is she? How old is she?
28, it's in the map. It's actually, there's more, it's, so,
Okay.
it's her 28th birthday party, and then actually in the script there's 3 parties, but as I was mapping it out and thinking about how the heck I was going to tell this and not make it boring, I decided there's just going to be the one party, and there's going to be 3 groups of people she interacts
Oh,
with.
that's it. Yeah, that works. Okay.
And build it up that way instead, because it needs to move forward. The interesting part is really the middle of the story, and so that's where things.
Oh no, yeah, number 6 is great. She swallows the children. That's great.
Yeah, so that, that's the fun, the interesting part, and so that's where the movie needs to happen, right? And really the party is just your setup. And
All right, now she's at another birthday party. So if you would have kept your original idea, there would be 4 parties.
I know it's boring.
So now there's only 2.
There's 2. There is the one where we set it up, and then there's the one at the end, which I may actually not even do. I may just stop it at the what's it called? When she does the thing, right? Because we know how it's going to end.
Well, let me get to the ending. So she opens up and all the different children pop out. And I think that would be great, because then you get reactions from all the people at the party, and they're like, oh, wow, congratulations.
No, that's not what happens.
Huh?
Because they recognize that some of them are their children.
All right, so they recognize it right away. Okay. And so
So
she goes from being the protagonist to the antagonist immediately, or just from being
That's not how I see it. She is definitely perceived as being the villain now, and there's a little more on the character sheet, but basically she does this impossible thing in order to get accepted, right? To be like everybody else, even though that's not who she is. And then she finds a creative but absolutely inappropriate solution to the problem.
Right.
And as a result, things are even worse, which is your typical Greek tragedy.
Okay, so
so there's a little more notes about that.
So you have this ending as a tragedy, which is fine, right? She stands alone, and she's in dismay. She's in tears. Okay, so I mean,
she can't, basically, she can't win. You can't win this,
right. And I think that, you know, my cartoon mind, and everything's a cartoon, in the film reel that is in my head, that is constantly playing, I'm always looking for some humor slant on stuff. I think that what you could do is drive the dagger deeper in Rosa's heart by having one of the women at the party come over and just like put her hand on Rosa's shoulder and say, you know, Rosa, this works better if you have a husband.
Matryoshkas don't have husbands.
Oh, they don't.
No,
So how do they get their babies?
they just get them.
They just get them.
Yeah, this is the toy that I stumbled over when I was looking through old stuff. This is a real Matryoshka.
So, you know, Rosa,
So, you know,
this would work better if you were a nice person.
that's not the point.
Okay, so
I will think about it, so I will,
Right,
I will think about, I mean, the ending is not quite there. I agree with you on that one.
no, I'm just we're still in that ideation phase here, and I think that as a creative, we just want to explore different ideas because then it strengthens your resolve. Oh,
Oh,
yes,
yeah. I spent,
no,
I literally spent the whole week agonizing about this in my head. I dreamt about it.
right,
And then yesterday, I actually wrote down a few things and I got stuck again. And then, you know, at 4 o'clock today, after taking a break to fix my car, it was like, okay, I just gotta write it down because
Yeah.
otherwise I'm gonna do this for a month, right?
right.
So I wrote down and worked through what I had, basically.
So, you know, one of the things that just came to my mind is that if you say that the Matryoshka just get them, you know, it just happens by magic, then there's an essence of mysticism there. There's an essence of magic, right? And
yeah, except that's really, I mean, the important part is she is not correct, right? She
Right.
is not, she
Right.
is not right.
Right, something's wrong with her.
Yes, something's wrong with her.
But I
And
think
it doesn't
that
really matter whether this is by her choice.
so one of the things that you might want to do is explore, because I think that you've got the core part of the written story, right? But I think that there's a couple of visuals that might help you with the very ending. And that is that a typical Matryoshka gets her babies with magic, you know, with the spiritual quality that they have, or whatever you want to call it, the color and the spiritual or the magic or whatever it is. And you know, in the last moments of your story, it could be that Rosa realizes that that's what she's missing, is that peace, that love, that magic. And visually, she might be able to see that in the other women who have their inners.
Yeah.
So that might be just a way to end it more visually.
I
But
think that would be really good when she's just at the end, when she is all sad and alone. That will come out actually even more if the women have this halo kind of around them. Right?
Well, you know, don't draw a halo, because then you're going to get into like the Christianity thing.
That's okay.
But look at it in terms of more like
it can be an aura, all new agey.
Is this Rosa in the middle right here?
No, this is a plump generic happy. This is more, Rosa is more like the more skinny. She will be more blocky in her design. Since the design, you know, all the Matryoshka have very similar shape, and then what's painted on them is their personality.
So you might want to try something like this.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of what's.
And
Yeah. And you can go like all the way around her. Wow, this is gonna make her look like the Lady of Guadalupe. No, that's actually, I love that. I love that.
and you know what might be interesting is that if the one of the women have this as their aura and another woman has something equally as cool
Oh,
as her aura.
ooh. Now I really like that idea. And
then-
that way, no, I was wondering that because that way, from the very first, like, oh, I need to look at you. My screen's on the right. My establishing shot, if the dolls that people, you know, in the establishing shot, they already have auras, right? Then we can immediately, then I can bring in an emotion.
Yeah.
Because the dolls don't really have, you know, strong gestures or strong facial expressions or anything like that.
Right. Right.
So this is actually really, yeah, this is a great idea.
So here's a third woman, right? And she's just got like sparkles.
Yeah.
So one thing that you could try to do is to, and this is like Tinkerbell's
Yeah, it's awful.
Tinkerbell's pixie dust.
Yeah.
And then when you do Tinkerbell's pixie dust, you start with like a whole field of just the little magic, and then you go back, and then you give form to a little bit bigger form to some of them, just for interest's sake, and then you go back and you do little 5-point stars. Remember, I have a background in special effects, so, and in each one of
Well,
these,
I mean, then we could get a little overboard and have the dust coalesce, and she's making a little baby right then and there.
right,
It's not going to happen. That's not the story.
right.
Um,
So then Rosa, you know, this might be Rosa, and then you could make that point by just saying, you know, she's got just like a little bit. You know, she's not evil, but the problem is she's only got a little bit. And so the audience knows immediately that the reason why the Matryoshka happens for all these other women is because their magic is strong, their myth is strong, but Rosa's is just, it's dull right now. I mean, that's up to you, but I think that you got to.
No, I really like this idea for showing what's missing, because it is like, how do I explain that she, you know, she's not measuring up, she's
You know,
not.
I don't think you want to do this.
It's not
You know,
a-
like the smoke.
no,
You know.
no.
Um,
No, I think I have an idea of what
all right.
to
So do you want to take a screenshot of that?
do. Yeah, why not? Hang on.
Very interesting story, Mr. Alex.
I probably remember this, but I do wanna, it always helps to get started, to have a picture. Okay, I got
All
it.
right. So now, before I let this go to the next person, what I'd like to do is introduce you to Joe Gilland. So I'm getting these shapes from the Elemental Magic book called it's called Elemental Magic. It's the art of special effects. So Joe Gilland, Elemental Magic, and there's all kinds of stuff in there. You know, there's water, fire, smoke. He was my supervisor on James and the Giant Peach. And he authored this book on special effects. It's great. It's wonderful. And so now we're getting a little off topic here, but you know, and I don't know if he has pixie dust in his book. It could be that he just didn't put that in there, but like this one right here, like the when
That's,
Cinderella does her wonderful thing, right? Where did I put Cinderella?
this looks, yeah, I need to do my, I'm numbering. I need to do my life.
Oh, here. Oh, that one I just found recently. I'm interested in doing pop-up books. This is the one I wanted. Right? Whenever anyone says, "Oh, you're having your Cinderella moment," that's what they mean, right? So I'm going to copy and put this in the chat for you. And let me know when you got that. And then this is going to cross-reference with some other stuff. Like in the news this week was the Aurora Borealis, that there was a sunspot about 8-9 days ago that was strong enough that it made the northern lights, the Aurora Borealis, go as far south as Pennsylvania. All right, so you got that idea? I think it's interesting. Go for it. And do your thumbnails as we're talking right now. All right, Chloe's not here. So let me just read this and give her comments so that she can see it when she looks at the recording on Zoom. Emily's shadow brings its finger to its face. Oh, I see. So she's shushing Emily. Okay. Okay, so Emily, Chloe, this is really wonderful. I would say do it. Go do your thumbnails right now. This is really great. I think it's the exact right duration. I don't know the poem that you're speaking of, but this is wonderful. Get your cameras in the right place and do thumbnails. I will be available during the weekend for anyone who wants to bounce things off of me. But this is very nice, Chloe. Good job. Yeah. Yay! And why aren't you in class? Philip saying class was over on December 22nd. I don't know about that. I don't think so. I'll double check with Paul, our director. Let me put it on my list of things to do. Okay, Magnus.
Hello.
So Magnus, in the, I'm right about halfway through it there, neck and neck as they head towards the loop. Are they on their own track, hopefully?
Both of them are together on the same track, so it's kind of a
Okay,
tricky situation.
yeah, so if they're on the same track, how is the person in the back ever going to win?
Oh, it's wide. Like,
Oh, I see. So it's a double road. It's a double track.
yeah, pretty much.
Okay, okay. A portal.
Yeah, I drew inspiration from the Hot Wheels
Okay.
franchise.
All right, they wind up in a straightaway towards a big jump over a bottomless pit, floor it, and their cars accidentally hit each other in midair. All right, so when you say that Inferno sees Marcus has crashed and thinks to himself briefly, stops before the finish line, they were in the air. Were they? It sounded to me like they were in the air.
Yeah, they accidentally hit in the air,
Yeah.
and then Marcus sort of flips like afterward, like after landing.
Okay.
So like a crash, pretty much.
So in the third line, fourth line from the bottom, when Inferno sees that he's crashed, he's actually back on the track.
Yes.
Okay. So he does a noble thing.
Yep.
And he's not the villain. All right. So Marcus is okay as he gets out of the car. You might want to have the car explode. And it might be a really
Possibly.
fun thing for you to do at that point, and then just go back to this again. Go back to Joe Gilland. And he has wonderful explosions. So just do Joe Gilland, elemental magic explosion. And there's some great stuff, you know, wonderful ways of drawing explosions, right?
Yeah.
And because I've never seen this particular one before, it could be that Joe has a third edition to his book. All right, you're pretty tough, kid. So they walked to the finish line together. Okay, so what looks like a villain actually becomes a good guy. That's fine. That's great. All right, start doing thumbnails. Start doing thumbnails right now. Go,
Yeah, one of the
Marcus, go.
things I also wanted to say is this map is going to be pretty complicated, like with a consistently moving 180 degree.
So
It should be maybe one or two scenes, but
the way I see it is that you've got your starting point. And in the map, you've got like Hot Wheels are all gravity driven. And so you can have the idea that the wide track is just like this. And the announcer can be on his own separate tower. So this is a tower, and this is the tower where the two cars are. So Magnus and Inferno are like right here, right? And there could be like a group of stands down here, that kind of thing. And you can get a lot of mileage just out of this first scene, right?
yeah.
And then I think that, 3, 2, 1, go, and then you're going to need the loop. And so if you just make this go straight out here, it's basically still scene one, where this is the loop right here. And so, it could be that you just have a really straight shot at this, because now your ever-ending pit of doom is right here. And so this is the jump right here. So you just have the ramp right here. and they're supposed to land over here, right? So you
Yeah.
basically got one long background to deal with. Because Magnus lands like right here, and Inferno lands right here, but the finish line is over here, right? This is where they should be. It's really close. And Inferno is going to be here. And so Magnus is crashed right here. Inferno gets out and helps him, and they walk across the finish line together. So this is just the way I translate it. And then
Yeah.
from this, as long as you can see this map, you can just start putting your cameras in there. You can have an establishing shot out here. And basically this is your 180. Just keep your cameras all on this side of the 180. And this is your establishing shot here. So that shot looks like this. You got the track, right? You got the tower. And then over here, you've got the announcer's tower. You've got the background. You can start to see the bleachers of the people, right? And if you want more of the bleachers here, and you want to see more of this track going out here, and even the loop, right? And then you're going to put in the stuff that makes the loop work.
Right.
So then this establishing camera now is way over here. So now this camera sees all of this. And then you can do a truck in all the way to the top of here. You can cut back to here. You can do a shot right from, so this is going down right here, and you can do a shot of the two going down the ramp right here, right? So let's just call this camera 5. So what does camera 5 see? Camera 5 sees the ramp, a little bit of perspective, and a horizon, and your grid, and the grid and the sky. And then your cars are right here. Let's just draw them as boxes. And your characters are driving in them. There's their wheels. And so then you can see the interaction happening. If you need to, you could even put a camera right down the middle of the track, which would totally be fun. So this is, let's call this camera 8. So over here, camera 8 would be that the track is going to go right down the middle. Actually, let me put the track so that it's more like this, because the track is going to be in perspective, and you might be able to see that the tower was up here, and you might even be able to see the people in the grandstands over here. All right, so when the cars are coming down here, draw them as Kleenex boxes first. And then you could see the interaction of them bumping into each other, right? Because I think that you have the idea of them colliding.
Yep.
So they could, so just make sure that you use this kind of map, because I think that it's fun, it's cohesive, it works. You just have one long map.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah,
And then
so you want to take a screenshot of this?
sure. And then since there's a portal, it's basically going to be wrapping back to the beginning almost.
Oh, so yeah, so let me,
Like just after the loop, pretty much.
okay, I'm just trying to, I drew over your words here.
They approach a portal that suddenly pops up.
Okay, so you just use the same layout, the same backgrounds. I think you'll be in good shape. Just make sure that you study your map and put your cameras in there and number your cameras for your shots. And basically it's all one scene.
Yeah.
It's all one scene. You just have shots in there. All right, you want to take a screenshot of this?
Yeah. Also, one of the things I want to say is that for the announcer, should that be a separate scene where I focus
No,
on?
it's not. It's not a separate scene. That's him over here.
Okay.
So that's your camera either right here looking at him or right here looking at him, because you don't want to spin it too far so that it's looking this way. But this camera here, or maybe even this camera where it sees him and Marcus and Inferno, either one. You could do a close-up on the announcer here, and then you could do another version out here where it shows the announcer in a little further view, and then your two contestants over there. All right, so grab a
Okay.
screenshot.
All right, I got it.
Okay,
Thanks.
sure. All right, Kyle.
Yep, I'm here.
Hello, hello. So you've got Glenn as a dad and his son is smoking.
Hmm.
What's he smoking?
Weed.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. You'll see in the character designs, Glenn is the like rock star dad.
Okay. All right, so you've got some dialogue here, so you're going to have to, maybe go back to that thing that I just pointed out to you about animation and dialogue.
Ah. Yeah, and 180s are going to be very important.
Yeah, careful with those too. They don't have to be technical 180s.
Hmm.
Remember my cafe camera
Yeah, you
guide
want it
thing?
to be at least 20 degrees
Well, right, but
difference.
this right here is like the go-to rule of order is that you have two people sitting, and this is their heads or shoulders, and they're drinking coffee.
Yeah.
So they're just like sitting 45 degrees to each other. They both have coffee. There could be salt and pepper on the table or whatever.
Mhm.
But this is character A, and this is character B, and this is like the very first rule of cinema, is that your 180 is over here. It's behind the camera.
Gotcha.
So what does this camera see? It sees the table, the salt, the pepper, the cappuccino, and character A is on the left, their little chair, and character B is on the right, their little chair. So it's A and B. And then as long as your camera stays on the correct side of the 180, this camera here sees character A can either be really big or over the shoulder shot, but the table is basically in the same place.
Mhm.
And now character B is sitting over here, and so character A is always on the left. B is always on the right. And you go to this camera, and I'll just draw it sideways, because now character B can be over the shoulder. Table's in the same place. Now character A is sitting over here, and so character A and character B are always in the same place.
Gotcha.
So that's the rule. All right, so my advice here would be is to just see if you can just do it with as little dialogue as possible.
Okay.
Because you want the actions to read. Alex just put something in the chat. What did you put in there for us to look at, Alex?
I put a picture of the matryoshkas with the RS driven. I don't know whether you can open it.
So this should be on my desktop. I don't know why it's not on my desktop. Yeah, sure. Works. It works for me. Yeah, and you can even have those things change. The shapes can change over time.
Yeah, roses definitely need to change.
Okay. All right. So Kyle,
Mhm.
I'm looking for the ending here. Glenn is already reclined in his seat. All right. So how does this end? Daryl starts the band and pulls away.
So there's actually going to be more. There was going to be more, but that was kind of the initial opening bit that I have, because it's going to
Right.
introduce you to the other two dads and their kids as well.
So there's going to be a total.
So there's
of
going to be four in
4.
total.
And are you going to do that for your final for this class?
That's what I was kind of hoping to do. Yeah.
All right. So see if, remember that we want this to be as visual as possible. So get the visuals working first.
Okay.
And then, you know, quite literally go to your storyboard board. And I got to get this out of the way again. And so remember that I got to that one by clicking on just this one. And it should trend the same thing for you, that you're looking for just the dialogue. Oh, it's trending different now. Let me see if I can find it and pin it.
Okay.
I'm not sure if this one's going to take me there. It's just that one issue with social media and how things are trending. You know, this is a good one here. Looking for symbols in face, shapes, and dialogue. You know, you might get a lot out of this, so I'll pin this one.
Okay.
Oh, I just pinned it to the wrong board. It's probably going to be on both boards now. All right, so let's see if I can find that one where they were talking about camera placement and dialogue. I thought I got to it through this one. Let me try one more time. All right, so yeah, I would just recommend finding some good examples of what dialogue and interaction looks like between characters. And you're going to have a whole bunch of different camera positions, so just make sure that you're not overdoing the cameras too much.
Okay.
And this is new. I haven't seen this one before. In my effects class on Friday, I'm going to put this in my effects board. All right, now that I've done that, I've ruined my trend, but that's okay. My trend was mostly Audrey Hepburn anyway. All right, so it looks good. Just make sure that you get as much visual acuity out of this as possible.
Okay.
Yeah,
making sure that all the
because you
expressions.
quite
and
literally could shoot this in live action.
Yeah.
And so the idea is to answer that question: why are we animating this? You know, someone's going to look at the script and go, you know, this is great. You know, you're the director. Okay, fine, if you want to do this, but why am I going to spend the extra time on animation if we could just shoot it live action?
Mhm.
So try to figure out some ways to get some action in there that makes it have to be animated.
Okay.
So that is one thing to think about. All right, thank you, Kyle.
Yeah.
All right, Riley,
Yep.
how did you manage to get the words right to the edge of your screen like that?
I usually just use Photoshop just and Word and put it like in words and such.
All right, let me read it. Okay, so I think this looks pretty good. It's going to be somewhere around the 2-minute range to tell all this.
Yeah.
You've got your map, a couple of maps there. All right, so this is starting to work. One of the things that I want to impress on you is that you're kind of skipping a couple of steps here with your character. He's only okay right now. I think that I wanted to just re-emphasize the idea of you're starting with a circle. That's great. Draw the line of action as it was an S shape, not just this tiny, this kind of very soft arc right here, because what it'll do is it'll give you the opportunity to really play with a bend in his body form. If you can see that. And then that puts the line for his eyes here. And then you can really get the idea of perspective happening on this by making the away shape here smaller. And this one a little bigger. The other stuff is okay. But the tail, you want a place where everything has a really good silhouette. So right here, you've got a nasty little tangent. And you're going to get in trouble because you're trying to draw clean. You're trying to give me clean lines, but you can't. If you're going to do that, you can't have tangents anywhere. You can have tangents when you're drawing roughly, but you should get the idea of him performing head, line of action. This is his body form, and then what'll happen is you can see that this leg is going to be better here, supporting him, and then that gives the ability to show how deep his feet are. And then his feet can be splayed out. So then this foot is over here. This is a much better pose. See it? So then find out his tail. If you draw the 3D form for the lower bout of his body, then this is the front and the tail is going to connect right there. Then make sure that the tail is not interacting with any lines. So have it be like this. You know, it can touch his hand right there, but this is going to be a better pose for you. All right, you want to take a screenshot of that?
Yes, I do.
You got it?
Hold on, camera. Got it.
All right. So it's always that same thing. And you can go back to that Flooby Newbie thing we talked about, because it's the same thing. You know, over and over again. Here you've got the same two poses copy and pasted for the size comparison. I think that's fine, but even your static character can have a better line of action, because right now it's just a tiny little bend in the curve. So practice that. It's your one main tool. All right, and once again, I think that you just want to make sure that You're translating this into the visual properly. Get your cameras in your maps now. Give your 180 down there and start thumbnailing like right now.
Yeah, which one 180 would you like recommend on the villain?
It's up to you. You can put your 180 wherever you want. Each one of these can be a separate scene. You know, I think that you might have 2 or 3 scenes in here. Each scene needs its own 180.
Okay.
That's the rule. Each
Okay.
scene needs its own 180. You know, if you get to the part where there's fury happening, or you're at the crisis or the war or the battle, then you can take the 180 out. It helps with the energy of the film cinematically. But that's up to you. But
Okay.
start doing your thumbnails right as we speak.
Okay.
Okay, and do them fast and furiously, and get ready to do them 2 or 3 times. All right, thank you, Riley.
Thank you.
All right, Philip. All right, so Philip, I see the beginning of your story here, but I'm not sure exactly where you're going with it. You have a man hunting for a beaver, family hunting for a beaver, and a third woman dreaming of having a village.
That was last week. You look at that already.
What did you
I
say?
didn't change anything on my script, only the thumbnail.
Well, I haven't looked at that yet. So was this supposed to be for last week?
Yeah, the native people.
All right, so you put, oh, so you put this in the wrong place. Today we were supposed to be looking at your story ideas for the first of your 2 last stories. So you're still getting caught up. That's what you're telling me.
Yeah.
All right. So I think you need to work on just the idea of composition. So I think that when you're saying in your short script here that a man is hunting for beaver, you know, I can easily see that there's a guy, and you draw him kind of in his line of action,
Yeah.
and he's there, and he's got his little beaver hat on, right?
Okay.
You know, and maybe he's got his arm up and his hand up, and there's a bunch of bushes in front of him.
Yeah.
And so he's just out in the wilderness, right?
Right.
And he's squinting, he's looking for the beaver. And then you draw whatever you need in the background. You know, at this point, you can't avoid your perspective. And so, you know, he's looking for something, right? And then in the next shot, you can show your perspective that maybe there's a river coming through your shot.
Yeah.
And that there's these trees that have all been nubbed down and whittled because of beavers, right? You can see the little stumps. And then down here, there's like the beaver dam, right? So this river might be empty if it's going the wrong way, right? And so this just kind of tells you that you're out in the wilderness. You know, there's some foliage happening there. And this should just tell the audience that he's definitely looking for a beaver. And you can even kind of start practicing over here about what trees look like when beavers bite them down. And you can show fallen trees, that kind of thing. But this right here is much different than this. I think I want you practicing sketching like this to the best you can, especially if it's an establishing shot, especially if it's front, and I see that these are quick little thumbnails here, but you really need your map. I just started drawing because I saw the river and the guy's hiding in the bush over here. And these are the trees that are, and this is the beaver dam right here. So that's what this camera sees. This camera right here is this camera looking at him. And then the other camera is what he sees. So that means the line of action is like this in the shot. Actually, it's like this. All right, so, this is a start. I think you need to now continue to do the thumbnails. You want to take a snapshot of this?
Okay.
Because the way I understand it is that your family keeps moving on because they haven't found the beaver. And so you have to tell that part of the story visually as well.
Hold on.
All right, you got the image?
No. Yeah.
Got it?
Yep.
Okay.
Did they put my map down further?
Oh, yeah, it's a little messy. It didn't look like a map. Once again, I think that if you're in a map, you have to realize that the people don't look like they're standing. If you're drawing a map is, your camera is really, really high up in the air. And so, if I say map of forest, then you start to see different things, right? You're out in the wilderness. So this is what's called isometric perspective. And that's where you can kind of see a little bit of the things, and you're welcome to try that if you want. But your map is really, your camera is really high up in the sky. You see that? You see what I mean?
Yeah, the bird's eye view.
Yes, a very, very tall bird's eye view. All right, and see if you can work on your sketch quality.
Okay.
All right, Paula. Paula. Okay, so your original plant is worried because she sees the other plants dying. I would like to just ask Paula do we see that one of the reasons why the plants died is because the owner didn't water them?
Yeah.
Okay. But she's got a little bowl of water.
Yeah. So I was gonna be like, because you know how like succulents and like bamboo, they like survive, like they don't really need a lot of like lots of care like other
Right.
plants do. So I was to like that she forgot to take care of the other plants and she sees like the other plants dying. So then she gets sad. And then when
Okay.
the owner brings a new one, she doesn't want to be friendly because she's like scared to be attached to it.
Okay. So we try to get the establishing what the shots look like with the owner of the plant.
Mhm.
Because I think that's your next step, is just to make sure that the story is it's a simple story. That's fine.
Mhm.
But these plants are removed because they needed a lot of care. But the ones that are more succulent and more resilient are the ones that are going to be happier on the bookcase,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So I think that that's fine. Just now show it the interaction of what the human looks like in there.
Okay.
And start doing thumbnails now.
Mhm. Thank
Okay, go Pablo, go. All right, and Tristan.
Yes.
You killed him. Tristan, you killed your lead character. Okay. And that's one of the robots.
Yes.
Okay. So I think this is fine. So make it look like the man is going to work, right? Because you say tiptoeing through the factory, but I think that the enlightenment, the exposition should be that he's just going to work, and then he realizes all of a sudden after he's in there, you could even have him like punching a time clock, right? And after he punches the time clock, he like and he puts his time card in the time slot. You could have this thing where he's like the only one who's there. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Or maybe that there's just 2 or 3 other people that are there. But there also there might be something wrong with their time cards. Like their time cards might have stains on them or something. And then you can continue to point number 7 where he gulps and he starts getting nervous as he's walking around. And it's fine that you kill your main character. You're allowed to do that. And it's fine that you don't show it either. When I was reading this, I thought that the ending was going to be is that as he realizes, as his eyes adjust to the light at the bottom of the pit, that there are a bunch of his co-workers down there who did the same thing. They ran away from the robot and they fell into the pit. But that's okay. I think that you could probably show some of that. You could show some of his dead co-workers.
Oh yeah, I could do that.
Just laying about. So yeah, I would say go for it. You've got your character. Now draw your maps and your initial thumbnails.
All right.
Go for it. All right, let me just take one look here. Okay. All right, so I had a bunch of you request out to a bunch of you to just start drawing thumbnails just after we were talking this evening. Does anyone want to share anything right now? Nope. Alex is saying no. Anybody? Anybody? Okay. Chime in if you do. All right, I just wanted to go over a couple of things, and I'm probably not going to keep you past 9 o'clock because I just want to make sure that you're all doing the right thing. And part of this is just going to be a refresher or reiteration, what have you. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to look at the board here. And remember that when I'm putting things in there, it's really just to set your imagination on fire and to really get an idea to augment what we've been talking about in the class. So let me just find a good place to start here. I think that this right here is probably a good place, because I think that what you're all doing is translating your script into maps, and therefore you're establishing shots or your master shots, and then therefore into your thumbnails. And remember that thumbnails should be drawn very quickly. They are one of those things that you really don't put them in your portfolio. They're just a tool to get to the first boards. But what I'm looking at right here is just some character designs. And I picked Scotty Young here just for a couple reasons. If you've ever seen any of the tutorials he does or videos of him drawing, they're just really great. He takes his blue line and just starts rendering right on top of it because he's so good and he's so fast. All of this stuff is done with a brush. So just like this drawing right here, to us, it looks great. You know, he's got a comic little look to it right there, and you're seeing the other things that are trending behind it. But what we don't see is the blue line that was underneath there. Just take a look at this guy with the beard. There's a nice line of action right there. Even in Pikachu, there's a nice swing of the line of action. There was a thing that Scotty Young just did over the last couple of days. Let me see if I can trend this. Now, I'm not sure that stuff that's in my trash can is going to, because I can't keep everything alive. It doesn't pull through there. Well, he just did a bunch of gorilla stuff. Let me see if it's still in my inbox. No, I don't know where it came. It could be on Instagram. Let's see if it's on Instagram. I think I'm following him on Instagram. All right, so here's the stuff that he did from the gorillas. And you can see that this one is really great. There's a hint of a blue line there, and he's using one of these Japanese sumi brushes, which are really great. They're like it's an ink pen, but there's a brush on the end of it instead of a nib. And you do have to fill them fairly often because you are laying down a good amount of ink. It's a great tool. You can see it in his hand right there. He is left-handed. That is him. But what I wanted to look at was just the power of the poses that he gets. So we've got that, and we've got this, and you can see here that he's got a young lady, a teenage girl playing the bass, or there's 6 strings, so it's a guitar. But you can't do a drawing like this without the line of action. You really just can't.
Hey, I have to call you out on this. There are 6-string basses.
Oh no, you're right. You're right, and it looks like a bass. There's 7-string basses too. And I've seen them even more than that. Okay, so Some of the poses here are a little more gentle, but let's just talk about the line of action and character design today. So I've got this open. What I want to do is I want to just pick a blue color, and we want to go back and forth. And let's just say that you want to practice for a little while. And these two drawings right next to each other here are really great. They're a really great combination of setting the pose between head and a very curvy line of action, head and a very gentle line of action, head and a single stroke of line of action because the character is leaning forward. So let's just kind of show how we build those three. So for the first one, we're just going to start with the blue to be a little brighter with a head. We can see that the head is pretty round right there. The line of action is, remember that it's balanced, so that if I see the head right here, however much curve I have, it really kind of ends right underneath where the head is. So that's one thing to kind of think about. So when I throw this line of action, if I wanted to just copy this pose, this is close. If I back up a little bit, I can see that I maybe made her neck a little too long. And so in this pose, there's the line of action takes a big curve right here and then kind of winds up under her main form right there. All right, so the next thing is just determining her body shape. And there's just a little bean in there. You don't even have to suggest it because the bean shape is very, very skinny. And so that right from the get-go, he's just thinking to himself that this character is a girl. In the front view, she's just going to have a tiny little body. She's going to have tiny little legs. And it's just going to be about lines. You know, she's kind of a Jack Skellington kind of character. And so I don't know if when Scotty Young is doing this, that he's thinking anything about doing front side view. He's just doing the head, the line of action. He's saying that he wants her leg to connect, not half, but a little bit up from the bottom of her foot, like a 2/3 of the way up from the bottom of his foot. And the line of action for her foot on top of the little amplifier is like this. So his blue line is going to look something like that. Then he's going to draw the guitar. So where is his guitar? And you know, if he puts the guitar right over the main form of the body, he's going to miss all these parts and things are going to be tangential all over the place. So he sees those crazy bass guitars that are shaped like an axe. And so he's just going to draw in that shape for an axe. And he knows that it's intersecting the leg. It is crossing in front of the body, but just over the leg a little bit. So then at that point, he's gonna give a really upward slant to the neck of the guitar like this. And it's pretty straight, you know, it's not the straightest line ever. And then he's got the little head of the bass up here. And you know, and at that point, he can just say, okay, I've got a volume up here. It's going to be symmetrical to a center line on the fretboard. It should be symmetrical here as well. He knows that he wants it to make it look like an axe. So now this arm here is going to come out and straight over the axe itself to play with the strings. And the line of action for this one is coming from that same point and coming up and fretting on the strings. He's got the hair coming straight down here. And in his mind's eye, he's like even given room for the straggly hair behind the bass to just kind of frill out. And it's most of her body form like that. I think he's probably going to do the chord for the guitar last. And then he's going to put in the feet. So here he's going to say, I'm going to give her some sort of cowboy boots on both feet. And so you can see we're building the pose here. Head, line of action, a very minimal body, and a line of action for each one of the legs and each one of the arms. So you can see that I've got that pose pretty close here. If I look at the negative space between each one of these little shapes, you can see that just studying with these lines that I've got it pretty close here. You know, so I wanted to stop right there because this one's looking pretty good. So let's talk about this guy. You know, this is a pretty neutral pose. So here he's got a head, and the head is a long kind of bean shape. And he might even know that the head is going to be top heavy, kind of like a upside down bowling pin. So he could just draw that shape like this. And Scotty's probably thinking to himself that the character's looking this way, and he wants a little bit rounder shape in front. And so instead of being symmetrical, the shape is just going to look like this. And the line of action then is this swing first, and then backwards and just very gentle all the way down to the feet. And so when you look at this, it is a compound curve. It swings to the left, or to the right, to the left, and then to the left again. I'm sorry, right, left, right. But it's a lot more gentle than this one. It's a lot more gentle. It's there, but I think that what's happening is the body then is the same kind of theme he's working on with the little girl, that it's just kind of this narrow little shape here. And it's juxtaposed so that even though the line of action here is close to the spine or the back, that his belly is breaking from that and juxtaposing so that it lessens the appearance of the line of action even just a little more. The same thing with his feet. He's got his legs. He's like really kind of trimming that line of action down. He's flaring the ends of his feet out here, and both of his shoes are in the perspective plane of standing on a square. And you can kind of see that he's standing on a little rectangle or on a little square. All right, so he's got his hand in his pocket, and it's just a very typical thing to do, is to just give a little air between the arm and the body. All right, and then his other hand is holding a hot dog or some sort of sandwich up there. And so he's got his line of action going straight down, maybe a little curve to the left. And I think I might have accidentally clicked on something. So there's a little curve to the left. Let me Z back a little bit. All right, so I'm studying just where the arm breaks from the body, and it's in the relation to where the other elbow is, and then it's pretty straight. So here he is studying straights against curves. And even though he's still drawing the rough form right here, he's still thinking curves, and then for the first time we see a pretty straight line right here. Then he's going to dress the character up. He's going to give it its little Archie hat. And he's got the Archie hat going backwards. And it's right about this point when he can really start laying in a couple little details about where the midline for the face is, and where he wants his eyes, and what he wants his nose to look like, what he wants the hair to look like, you know, disheveled kind of thing. But this is what I'm looking at here. When you're studying the head to the line of action to the body shape, this is the not only setting your pose, but it's setting the idea for how you design your characters. It's always the same. So let's study this guy now over here. So it's a little bit different, but he's still starting with the head, still like a roundish shape. But now the line of action, instead of a compound curve, it's just a single curve for the body. Now, one could argue that the line of action from the head and body kind of continue into his left foot, because that's where the weight is. So if you want to borrow from that, then this still is a compound curve. If we do the right thing and we say shoulders, hips into perspective, then his body shape is sort of this bean thing going on here. And the line of action is correct in holding that foot. It's got a nice little bend to it. And this one's a little straighter. It's got an outside curve to it. and the feet are pointed in different directions. So it's like this, and then flat on the horizon. So remember that these lines are technically all converging to a vanishing point because it's basically 1 point perspective. All right, so then he's got his left hand coming down here, and he's gesturing, and his right arm is just kind of hanging down, and his hand is open. And then he can start thinking about the details of what the thickness of the arm looks like, what the actual shape of the head looks like, how big the eye sockets are. And indeed, he is a zombie. So he's giving a smaller eye over here. And he's got what looks like an ear that's breaking the plane here. So there's a nice silhouette. And that's the other thing that I wanted to stress here is that when you're looking at all of these, they all have a really interesting silhouette. So not only are you drawing the head, the line of action, the body, the line of action for each one of the body parts, but you're looking at negative space and silhouette all at the same time. All right, so when Scotty's doing this, he knows that he wants the bottom of the legs to be a little heavier than the top of the legs, and he's crinkling up the structure for the fabric on his trousers, or he's got the same thing happening with the thinner arms on the top and a little thicker on the bottom, just kind of sort of opposite of human anatomy. I've got a backpack on, and the backpack is in perspective, so he's just going to show you a little bit of it. And that's pretty much most of his ruff. He's got his little neck and the collar, and he's got a skinny little neck. And so we've captured most of this pose as well, except for what would be the guy's mouth. All right, so you see where I'm going with this? So we're studying a whole bunch of things at the same time. We're studying the head, and I'll just put a little dot there just to reiterate it. And the head, it has the face, it has an expression. We're studying the line of action. We're studying the line of action for each one of the parts. We're studying the silhouette. I'll just put a big S right there. We're making sure that the line of action is balanced so that the head is pretty much directly over the foot that has the weight on it. You know, and these are pretty dynamic poses. Same thing here. This head is over the leg that has the foot on it. See it? So the head is over the leg that has the foot on it. This has both feet. All right, so let's keep going. You know, this is a very interesting pose right here. It is like, it does look like a Scotty Young pose. So let's just look at this one for a moment. So let me turn my onion skin off. All right, so here the character is looking at us. So she's got a head, and her line of action is a big S shape. It's perhaps like the most pronounced S shape that you can get. But the only trick here is that the upper leg, your quads, and the lower legs, your tibia, your fibula, are pretty straight. So he's got the line of action kind of broken up into the compound curve, but this part's really straight. So it's like curve, straight, and then straight again. Again, remember that what we're looking for in a pose like this is that the head is kind of over the toe of the left foot. So if I go backwards just a little bit, that this foot is going to be behind the balance point here. And so that adds to that dynamic. So look at it. And then the other foot, it's pretty much tangential with the other knee. And it's kind of just breaking from that to look like this. And we can't really see the foot. We can imagine that she might have just tiny little feet. You get an indication right on her right foot that she might be standing on her tippy toes. And in this pose, both hands are going backwards. You can see that he's very carefully made room for the away arm right there. What does her body shape look like? You know, it's a pretty typical female form. And a lot of the weight right here. And then he's given her this great big hat. And the hat is covering up the bottom of her head. So it's not cutting through and giving a good tangent or a good silhouette. But the silhouette here is that it reveals the contrast in her face. That she's got this little part on the top of the headdress. And I'm not sure what this is. It could be a hand and some bangles. It doesn't look like she's carrying a weapon. And I'm not sure what this is. It could be like a scarf or something. So he's got like this scarf that's going away in the wind, and he's just kind of suggesting it. That these things might be ribbons on her hats. So once again, once he's studying a pose like this, he's just kind of giving everything its own good silhouette. So once again, head, the line of action is curved and then it's straight. And the power is that the weight is fairly distributed between each foot, but a little bit more weight onto this character's right foot right here. And so that's a pretty good dynamic pose right there. And remember, I'm just going to write the word dynamic because I think that I want you all thinking about your story about trying to get dynamic poses in there, trying to get dynamic expressions. So if we look at just what was trending right here, you know, he's just totally mastered. And I think that this is probably from I Hate Fairyland, because that looks like Gertrude. I don't know where it's coming from, but these facial expressions are great. You know, I highly suggest going and studying Scotty Young stuff, because he's got Gertrude just totally nailed. The stuff that he does for her is good. Does anyone know this comic? I Hate Fairyland. It's really great. All right, so it looks like someone pretending to be Scotty, drawing, pretending to be Bill Watterson. And you've got Hobbes just attacking a very recalcitrant Calvin. So in this pose, we'll draw Calvin first. He's got his head, and he's pretty off model. This character is just, he's doing fan art, but let's just study it for a moment. The character is leaning forward in perspective, and the line of action continues straight into the break between the away foot, the right foot, which has just got its little toe on the ground. And another thing that you can study here is that you've got the shoulders and the hips are in perspective, but the balance point is here. So there's like two lines of action. There's like one for each foot. And we see the bottom of his foot here. All right, then we've got another line of action that's controlling the arms that are working together. And so this arm has got the hand coming out here. It's in front of his left foot, and the other one is like protecting him. So it's a little straighter going into the back. So he's in motion, but because his head is over his left foot, because his head is over his right foot, that's where the weight is. So that gives this foot right here less weight on it. All right, then you've got Hobbes. So Hobbes's head is right here. It's just adjacent to where Calvin's hair might be. And so you start with that. So again, you start with the head and just look at that line of action. It's a simple, open C shape for both the body and the tail. And so you can do them both together. But if you do one at a time, you got the line of action for the body. I'm going to draw that backwards just a little bit more, like that. And then you have the tail, which is kind of just adjacent to it and almost touching the ground. And then in order to show perspective, he's got the hump of the body as a bean shape. And it's very typical to see this kind of bean shape in comic work and in animators' work. And whenever you're looking at a character, you always look for that bean shape. If you can see that bean shape, that kidney bean shape, it'll help you. And so right here, then you see that there's, his hand is right near his face right here. So just block in his hand here and block in his shoulders, upper arm, lower arm. Same thing with the other one. Now you see a nice little silhouette of his elbow, and this hand is just kind of right there. Maybe up a little higher. Then you're going to just give yourself room to put his lower jaw, and both of his legs are behind him. So he's just going to emulate the upper lower leg and the foot, and then the upper lower leg and the foot, and the tail comes to the left of it. So that's the pose. And you can see that he's doing a midline. That gives a three-dimensional form. The ears are backwards. And the eyes are along the midline. His little nose is right here. So that's how he's setting this pose. All right, is everyone okay? Are you getting this idea? All right, let's see if we can find another one. I'm gonna go backwards.
I can't find the guitar girl with the axe guitar. Is there a way for you to link that? I want to try drawing that.
Sure.
That's a really cool, and it's not coming up.
So I'm gonna touch her, and this should take you right there. Where is my chat? All right, let me know. It should take you right there.
It's not showing yet.
Oh, I'm sorry. I went to fill, just to fill. Everyone, type it in again. Try it again.
Thank you.
Okay, you got it? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so now I think I want to just spend a few minutes just talking about some facial expressions. And this might take me a moment to get it. There was, where did I see this? It was, let me just do a regular Google search for this. I'm going to take that out of there. It's a thing, but let's do this first. And I'm not getting close here. Google is just a little too wide. Let me see if I can do this on Interesting. It's always nice to have a solid example. Oh, and I'm not getting nothing. All right, so what I was looking for is a thing that we do in animation, especially when we're making that jump between studying the pose, figuring out what the character looks like, figuring out what the design looks like. So if I go back here, it's like we're trying to do three things at once. We're trying to set our pose from the script. We're talking about design, right? And we're trying to get that keyframe for animation in there. So we're trying to do those three things all really at the same time, especially if we're coming straight off the script. So having said that, and so remember what I mean by this is that we go forward. We go forward from pose into design and backwards into pose. We go from design into the key, and we go backwards into design and actually backwards into the pose again. And these feedback loops are are very common. But then as we progress, we want acting. And one of the things that we talked about on our sheet, if you remember what the sheet said, is that you're also looking at style. And this is a really, really hard thing to kind of throw in this mix right here when you're learning. And I think that sometimes it becomes a little daunting when you're looking at stuff that professional people have put out there, and you're not quite sure how to, oh, I don't want this, I want this one, how to navigate it. So let me give you a couple of little tips for that little loop right there. Let me go back to the board. And I didn't want this one. Let me see if it comes up though as a reference. Well, this one kind of works here. There's a couple of books out there about drawing facial expressions that show you what a live action pose looks like and to what the artist has done with it. And you can see that they're all over Pinterest. These are not exaggerated too much. This Flynn Rider one here is very common. Even when I was still working, animating, this was very common to see on people's desks. Because it's got lots of variety, big wide open mouth, happy, sad. This is just a really good one. And what I think I'd like to do right here is just, I'm gonna plagiarize, I'm gonna steal right here. So this is, instead of drawing on my rough animator, what I'm gonna do right here is just explain a couple of things. What I'm actually looking for is a facial mask. And you can kind of see here that if you get the eyebrows to flow together, that there's a little mask. You can see that the eyebrows just always kind of flow together. So when you're looking for where the eyebrows go, they work together. So, and you can see that that even in this pose, it's a perfect one because the artist has given a little shade in there for the 3 dimensions. The eyebrows always work together. They should point at each other. Sometimes they're straight across and then down. All right, see what I'm going for? And then this one, it's like both eyebrows are pointed up. There's a really great little facial mask right here. Let's find one where he's more skeptical. So one is down and one is up and wide open, and the other's a little bit more close. Same thing here, a little bit down and then up. So even though they're going different ways, they're still kind of forming together. This one too. This one's up a little bit and down. So when you're looking at your facial expressions, always think of this mask. And the mask will help you figure out where your eyebrows go. And this is just a really great one because he's just full of really great expressions right there. All right, does everyone get that idea? All right, so let me clear out of this. Find another one. And just look, you can see the facial masks in there. That's a partial one from the one we were just looking at. Appreciate it. All right, let me see if I can get one that has some other extremes in facial positions. No, this is a good one right here. So let me just draw over this one for a second. Because you might disagree with me that the eyebrows are not connected because they're pointed downwards right here and downwards right here. See that right there? Alex, you can disagree with me. Say, Billy, you're wrong. But look, the actual facial mask is wide open. It's like, it's wide open. His orbital ridges are like huge. You see this? They're huge. And these are the lines that point together. Yes, of course, the eyebrows dip down a little bit, but you can see that this is his mask. See his mask right there? This is a really good one. That's excellent. Really, really great idea of how this idea of the facial mask works. All right, let's find another one. This one's a little more subtle right here. Let me draw over that one. So here, her facial mask is wider. And whenever you do this, whenever you study like this, remember that the facial mask should have the same attitude. It should have that same attitude. So you're only going to get that attitude if you go into your storyboards and you are following my advice about what is that inner voice. What is she thinking? She's skeptical or she's leery of something. You know, she is not quite convinced of the truth. So in her design, her facial shape is wide. She's got a pointy jaw, but her actual head is a little wider, but her eyes are nice and wide right there. This gives me an idea. Let me see if I can do a search here for Chris Sanders. You'll get the idea because in his drawings, his character's eyes are always really far apart. You know, it's like this strange anomaly that he gets away with. So here, the facial mask, it's really big. It's a really, really big facial mask. Comes over the bridge of the nose, but it's very strange because in Chris Sanders's work, the eyes are always really far apart. And that was the only good one right there. Let me back out of this. All right, do you get this idea, everybody? You get this idea? Okay, so we've done just a reiteration of head, line of action, how to get that drawing on the paper. So this is a really great rough right here. And so let me just draw over this one for a second. And this is really nice because this drawing only took Chris Sanders 2 minutes, tops. He did not spend more than 2 minutes on this, but look what he's got. He draws the head, right? And he's gonna say, where do I want my character? We don't see that line of action, but he knows that the character is going backwards. So the first thing he probably draws is the thing in front. So he draws this arm first, and then he draws this leg, because that's the leg that we can see. And then he draws the thing that we can see next is the away foot, and then her arm. And then he's going to put in the monster behind her. Oh, sorry. I didn't think you could do that. Well, that's okay. Now we're right here. Actually, let me back out of this and go backwards. I went to his blog. All right, so, but do you see that, everybody? So, he knows that these lines are connecting. He knows that the neck of this character here is connecting to this line. It follows it. So he's drawing through the form, but he's not letting the form of the monster behind her touch her because it's still a rough, and he just wants to suggest that the character's bigger and is behind her. This is a really, really wonderful drawing. They're both off the ground, so he's giving you the little shadow right here. This is really great. I'm not seeing in the Google trend here a whole bunch of stuff that's similar to this from Chris Sanders' point of view, but that's okay. But that was great. That was an excellent example of what he's thinking of in terms of head, line of action, although he didn't draw the line of action, but drawing what's in front first. Okay, so the next thing that I just wanted to put out there was I want you to think about your cameras. So all the drawings that we've done so far, just in this little demo right here, the camera has been in a normal 3 foot high off the ground position. And so what I want you to do is think about solid drawing. And then I'm going to just put in camera position and see what comes up here. I think the easiest way to do this would be Flooby Newbie. Oops. Because it should take me right to there. I'm going to do all here. All right, so I wanted to just end with the idea of camera. Just taking a look at in the board panels that we have normal cameras. This is called a color script, where they take long panels of the strips of the story and the colors that belong to that shot or that scene, and they put them together. This is called a color script. All right, so this is not exactly what I was looking for. Let me go back to images. I just want to make sure that you're all making your cameras active. And even though I put camera here, these are really great roughs, but the cameras are all normal cameras. All right, we can go over this more next week as I see more of your drawings. Just make a note for yourself that even in your thumbnails, get your cameras moving around. Make sure that your cameras are in different places. And the last thing that I wanted to leave you with is that just a reiteration of that point that I wanted to make with that I started with, is that if your camera is really, really active, you will have a narrator, whether you wanted it or not. If your camera is just a normal 3 foot off the ground camera all the time, then you're not going to really have a narrator. And there's a fine line in storytelling where you may want the camera to become a narrator. And so it's okay. It's just that if you didn't want the audience to perceive any kind of a narrator or a possible other character in the environment, then you should keep your cameras less active. And like I said, there's a really great example of that. And I just lost it. What was my example from before? It was, I'm getting it. It's coming back. No, I can't remember what it was. I've said too many words today. All right, so everyone, thumbnails. A couple of you didn't present tonight, so you should have thumbnails on top of the script and the maps and your character designs. This is due in
15th.
2 weeks. This is due in 2 weeks.
I guess I'm confused about the camera placement in the map and then where it's supposed to be on the thumbnail.
Your thumbnails are your camera. Your thumbnails are what your camera sees.
So the thumbnails, I mean, it had to be like small or well, not like big as a big like a storyboard or something.
Well, you remember the critique that I was doing for, I think it was Vivian maybe, where she has those two characters that were doing different things and their stories come together because they were both doing admissions for college. And so even with drawing the thumbnails in the right and figuring out where the overlap was going to be, there were no images in there even, but she was just trying to figure out where the shots were going to be in order to tell the story visually. Thumbnails are always small. Thumbnails are always fast. And if you're drawing thumbnails that don't have gestures in them, you're doing them wrong. If you're drawing thumbnails that have articulation and details, then you're trying to draw really small storyboard panels, and that's wrong. Storyboard panels are 4 inches by 2.5 inches or 7 by 4. You know, those are big story panels. Thumbnails are always this big. They're as big as your thumb. They're small and they're drawn fast. It's just a working visual tool to go from the words to the image. It's all this the thumbnails are for. And for studying sequencing, where do you want the camera to go from? Where do you want to? Oh, I want a big pan right here. Oh, I want to zoom. I want a dolly. I want a camera shake because the camera hit the ground. And you're working that all out in the thumbnails.
Really,
Then-
and by the way, can I ask where I could learn more about the camera technique? Like,
Yeah, let me see if I can pull it from a regular Google search. I saw it the other day. Maybe this one's it. All right, so I might have even given this one to you before. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put this in the chat, and then I'm going to show it to you. And this one is just the main storyboard for terminology and cinema from Flubi Nubi, and it's just really great because it covers a lot of ground. It covers the terminology. It covers what those shots are called: worm's eye view, bird's eye view, over the camera, over the shoulder. And so this is, and it's all in the right order. The drawings are simple, they're obvious. Here's a full shot, medium shot, close up, extreme close up. That's all great. Here's a diagonal pan. Here's all your camera moves, transition, the anatomy of the storyboard. And in this one, I'm surprised I don't see the word slug when it comes, because they don't have the timing in here, but that's okay. And so these are all really great. Let me see if it doesn't have the active camera. And so this is a lot about what I was just going over half an hour ago. This is interesting right here. You know, what is happening, how to show it. A guy hitting a baseball player hitting a baseball. This is a great way to show it. And then some live action examples. I have this thing set right here. Let me see if I can pull up another one. Well, this is looking interesting to me because the little GIF that's over here, it's really easy to understand from what the storyboard looks like. And this is coming to us from boards.com. I'm going to put that one in the chat as well. Where's my chat? So these are really good for camera moves, full shot, medium shot, close, extreme close. This is still not exactly what I was looking for the camera position. But I think that should give you, let me see if I can just change this to images, and it may take it to a site. All right, so what I've got is camera technique, Flooby Newbie, and I switched it to images. And this would be for Chloe, because I think she's the only one absent from tonight. And so you can just recreate this visual search by hitting camera technique, Flooby Newbie. And then I think this was one of the ones that kind of got me going for my prep today. Because remember, I was talking about perspective and 2-point perspective, and here's a character that's in a wide shot, but then 4th depth of field. There is one that I had found that's a little better than some others. Truck, dolly, boom, crane, that's all good. This is nice. Tilt, dolly, pan, pedestal. You know, this is really just a really great place to start. It doesn't show you what the image from that camera looks like, but you can imagine it. And I also don't have a whole lot of other things trending behind it. You know, this is kind of interesting that a normal storyboard drawing a guy running, and this artist is saying that's bad because he's running from point 1 to point 2, and this is a better way to show it, that the camera is rotating around it. So I'll put that one in the chat as well. You know, this is, oops, now I'm going to take, now it takes me to the Pinterest. Right, so I like this. I like what he's doing here. This is a professional way of showing that same run, is that the camera is rotating with him. A nice little trend here about drawing the human form in 3-point perspective. All right, I'll continue looking for it. And if I find the exact camera thing page on the web I was looking for, I'll put it in the discussion area of the classroom. But remember, what I'm looking for next week is thumbs. You should have your thumbs just going so that I can say yes or no, and that you can then just spend 1 week drawing your boards. It didn't look like too many of you had stories that were too long, so that's good. They should all be around the 30 panel range, plus or minus. Plus or minus. And remember, you are doing a couple of things all at the same time. You're refining your character design, setting the poses, getting the head and the line of action, all of it, you're doing all of it at once. And remember, you are doing it all at once because you're also thinking about the line quality as art. You're thinking about cinema, about where the camera is for whatever you're drawing. And then you're thinking about that pose in terms of animation, that little drawing of the coyote running. And all of it plays work into your story and your characters and who that character is. Storyboard is always about doing at least 5 things at once all the time. All the time. All the time, Alex. All the time.
Can you take a quick look at my board?
Where are they?
I put it in the chat. The link is in the chat.
Yeah, don't do that. It's taking me back to Canvas. So I don't want to do that. Did you put them in Canvas?
Yeah, I did.
Where'd you put them?
In the first class November one. There we go. Oh no. That's not it.
I don't know where you put them.
Okay.
All right, for everyone else, you can take off and have a good night. Phil, I will try to find this for you.
Okay.
If you put them in the class, they should be there somewhere.
I thought I put it in the first class November tab.
Well, see, I'm looking at everything that you can post, and none of these say November. Where did you put them?
Under the assignments to the left, and then the first class November is up top. Yeah, that one. Hey,
All right, so what is this?
I
All right,
just
so I don't want you doing this. Don't pick a story that's already done. So yeah, you're doing something from Ice Age. You should be working on your own story.
okay.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those things that I might be able to use as like a production challenge in a class. But you should be doing your own story.
Got it.
If you wanted to do this on your own, just to practice, that's okay. But it's not your story, so I don't want to start grading Chris Wedge's work by how you drew it. So
Okay.
do your own story.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay.